Hello, everyone. Welcome to Developing Palates. I am Aaron Loomis, and today we are talking about the Smoke In Battle of the Bands, specifically the Developing Palates Edition Flavor Pack, and specifically talking today about the Dunbarton Tobacco Trust Sobremesa. And who better to talk about that cigar than the man himself, Mr. Steve Saka. How you doing today, Steve?
Well, I'm doing great, man. Look at me. Am I like
Just
that
back from the surface of
weird?
the sun.
Yes. That's what happens when you spend 2+ weeks on a lake fishing, man.
Yeah. Well,
Crazy.
must have been nice to get away for a little while.
You know, it would have, it was. I'll admit that it was. I'm not even going to try to make bad out of it. So that's what we're talking about, right?
That is what we're talking about.
All right. So that's what I'm going to light up. I just want to make sure before I ruin the box. Now I can't sell it.
That's okay. I'm sure you'll swim through. Not a loss.
I normally smoke them out of bundles, but
Right.
I don't have any bundles, so
Right.
I got to crack a whole box.
So the Sobremesa was the initial offering that you released when you started the new company.
Yes,
and
2015 was the first. It was the first blend that we actually sold.
Right. So you had to know that all eyes were on you with this release. So what went into this blend being the kind of the initial release for the company?
Well, look, it's not my typical style. I mean, I was known for Liga Privada, right?
Right.
And that kind of cigar. So I was actually working on that blend too, which ended up being the blend for Mi Querida. The problem is the type of tobaccos that I like to use to make that heavy broadleaf blend, they needed another year. So there was no way, leaving the company in 2013, that I could introduce a broadleaf cigar that I would have been okay with in 2015.
Right.
I really needed to 2016 to make that happen. So I decided, and the other thing too is I also wanted to make something that was, look, one of the problems that we have in our business on the blending side is you kind of get pigeonholed. You kind of get known as, oh, he's really good at this or he's really good at that.
Right.
And the problem with that, and look, it's good. It makes it easier from a marketing perspective, but everybody has different likes and dislikes. There's no one cigar that's ever going to be perfect for every consumer. So I always knew from the beginning that I wanted to make a wide portfolio with the intent, hoping that there would be something in there for everybody, that they go, wow, that's really good. Because I don't expect them to think that of everything for them personally. And I wasn't really known for doing this kind of more medium-bodied, sophisticated, balanced. And it wasn't something that I wasn't capable of doing. It's just something that never got really showcased when I was at Drew, because the success of Liga, look, I made some mild Liga blends while I was there.
Mm-hmm.
There were other iterations of Liga Privada that were medium-bodied. There was even a Connecticut Shade Liga made.
Right. Yeah, I've heard
while I
that.
was there. But it doesn't fit with the Liga Privada message.
Sure.
So they never really ever saw anywhere. They never left the bench sample stage.
Mm-hmm.
So starting Dunbarton, you have the opportunity to kind of start your story over again.
Yeah.
And for me, Sobremesa, I had always loved the name. And it was kind of in my back pocket for a long time. Thank God I didn't say it out loud while I was at Drew, because it would have become Drew Estate property.
Right.
And I knew that I wanted to play around with some of these different tobaccos, particularly the Pueblo Nueva. I had never really made much use of that before. And it just seemed like a logical way to go. And then this is totally just really in total geek land right now. I knew that no matter what the first blend is, it will never be as successful as the second blend.
Really?
Yeah, it's a weird pattern in our industry.
Okay.
Most people, their second one ends up having more legs than their first one.
Interesting.
And that was probably the case with me too. I mean, Mi Querida was a bigger seller than Sobremesa.
Mm-hmm.
By the time, if you do the year 4 comparison to year 4 comparison.
Right.
Now, Sobremesa has taken on a life of its own because of Brulee.
Sure.
So, look, Sobremesa sales have never slowed. They've always continually grown, but they weren't growing as fast as Mi Querida sales.
Right.
They weren't growing as fast as Umbagog sales. They weren't growing as fast as Syncom sales. They were growing really well, better than Todos Las Dias.
Right.
But it was a little bit now because of Brulee being released, regular Sobremesa sales, which, of course, you kind of wonder why is that, and maybe it's
Right.
just that Brulee is the entry into the door for a lot of consumers, and it makes them go, oh, well, let me try the darker one too.
Sure.
Because I mean, that's one of the, if there's any one fault with the Sobremesa blend, is that it's very medium bodied and it's very smooth and it's really nice and it's really sophisticated, but it looks really dark. It's scary
Sure.
to a lot of consumers. You know,
Yeah.
they look at that cigar, they go, oh, that's going to be too strong.
Right.
You know, judging based on the color and the hue of the wrapper, because it has a really dark, you know, grade 1 Rosado, you know, Ecuador Habano wrapper on it. And as a result, I think that makes some consumers nervous.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't make you nervous,
Right.
doesn't affect me, but there's a lot of consumers that just always associate color with strength.
Yeah.
Even though that really isn't a fair association. Yes, typically darker cigars are stronger and lighter cigars are milder, but it's not always the case.
Yeah. 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 Someone can blend a Connecticut shade with a lot of, you know, strength in the hero and the fillers and things like that, and you really couldn't judge it based on that wrapper color. So yeah.
Right, exactly. You look at it, it's a blonde cigar, and you put it in your, I mean, so correct me, and I apologize to Robert Holt right now.
Sure.
I get a little confused, but there was Rosa Sharon.
Yep.
And then he made another version that was a stronger version, correct?
Um,
I thought he did.
he did make the Desert Rose, which was a little bit more of a beefier.
Right. Desert Rose is a bit more pop. And,
Yep.
you know, Agranosa has a selection of what I would consider to be spicy, more peppery kind of Connecticut shade cigars.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, you can't take it as what's typical isn't always. How about that?
Yeah, that's a fair.
There's a reason why it's typical, right? Because it is more times than not.
Yep.
But so Sobremesa, when I released it in 2015, I released 2 more sizes in 2016.
Yep.
And the 2 sizes I added were actually, I prefer them over the ones I released it in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
They have just a little bit more oomph to them, a little bit more body. And that's the Elegante and Cedros, which is a 7x50 with a cedar wrapper. And then it's the one that's in the Battle of the Bands pack that you selected, which is the short Churchill.
No, actually, I did the El Americano.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, you did the El Americano.
Yes.
Ah.
So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a very interesting story about the El Americano.
Yep.
So El Americano not last year, 2 years ago when we did the Nicaraguan Cigar Festival, they do every year except for the year that we skipped because of the social unrest. Every factory submits one blend to be judged blindly by the other factories. So every factory chooses a cigar and a blend, and they submit it blind. And then every factory sends 3 people from their factory to then judge all the cigars that all the factories submit.
Right.
And the El Americano actually got #1 in a blind taste test.
Fantastic, yeah.
Amongst all the Nicaraguan manufacturers. But I didn't get a lot of credit for it. They didn't make a big deal out of it.
Right.
You know, you know what? Why not? Let me just step on my crank here. I'm gonna claim it was racism, right? Because I'm white.
There you go.
Right now I'm red, but I was white at the time, right? But I'm going with hey, it's the white dude from New Hampshire. We're not going to make a big deal out of him, beating Padron and Pepin and AJ and all those guys in a blind taste test that they judged, okay? Right. I wasn't one of the judges, so I didn't even get my 2 cents in there.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the blend is if you smoke it casually, it's a good cigar. It's a solid cigar. But if you really think about it as you're smoking it, it has a lot of really unique flavor profiles to it. It's got this kind of, cocoa sensation, but I always refer to it more like a Dutch press cocoa, which is like pH neutral.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a smoother, softer, and has a little bit of woodsiness to it. And then it's got this kind of, like a cinnamon note. It's this Indian Ceylon cinnamon.
Yep.
And it's a very gentle cinnamon. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's very easy. And if you get a really astute palate, you can even get little notes of anise out of it. But again, it's the subtle anise, not like the star anise, which is much more pungent. So it's really the blend is a blend of like little layers and intricacies. And if you can go through those, I mean, you can get an awful lot out of the Sobremesa blend. And I think it's the reason why that here we are in year 5 on it. It's still growing in sales,
Yeah.
5 years later. And I mean, obviously, again, it's gotten a bit of a jump start courtesy of Brulee, but it was
Right.
still growing before Brulee existed. And I think it's just one of those cigars that people find, and it seems to find a way into their rotation. They're like, yeah, you know what? I want one of those. And
Yeah.
and look, the one that you chose, the El Americano, is the number one seller in the line.
Okay.
It is the one that outsells all the others.
Nice. Yeah, I chose that cigar for a couple of reasons. One is I feel that it's the most nuanced Vitola in the line. The original releases, as well as the Short Churchill and Cedros secondary releases. But the other reason is because that's the cigar that actually allowed you and I to meet virtually.
Oh.
Because I had made some comments after the trade show in 2015 about whether or not the blend that was touted for the cigar was going to be what was released, because knowing you're a perfectionist, that you had the opportunity, since you hadn't given out any samples to anybody, that you could change it if you wanted to or not.
Yeah, but
So
it was really too late because the cigars were already made.
yeah,
By the time I
absolutely.
got to the trade
Yeah.
show, we just didn't start sharing them because they were wet.
Right.
I brought cigars to the trade show to share.
Yeah, because you were checking the humidity in them while smoking
but
through them.
They were just too moist. And look, you only get one chance to make a first impression, good
Right.
or bad. And here's the problem with the trade show every year. You have this deadline, and it's not an artificial deadline, but in the way cigars work, it's kind of hard to hit a deadline. The only way you hit a deadline is that you're really ready 6 months before the deadline.
Right.
Because you never know what's going to happen. I just didn't want to share it, and I didn't want people to like it the way it was, knowing that it wasn't going to taste that way when they bought it.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. I didn't want them to taste it and go, that wasn't really all that great.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's one of the things that it always perplexes me is why so many companies rush things to the trade show.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't it better to, because you know how this works in our business. If you're a well-known company, or you have a pedigree of some sort, right? And the retailers are going to bring the product in to sell it, almost no matter what, you know what I mean? They're going to give it a try,
right?
Because if retailers only bought cigars they personally liked, well, then every humidor in the country would have 7 cigars in it, maybe 10 cigars in it. You know what I mean? So as a retailer, you're buying a wide variety of products because you have a wide variety of consumers. And so I actually don't really see the reason why manufacturers feel the need to hit that deadline. Look, if you can hit it and the cigars taste the way they're supposed to taste, great, do it. That's way better.
Yeah.
I would have much rather given out samples, to be honest with you. But I don't know. If you really think about it, I mean, when you're at a trade show and you're smoking so many cigars, I don't know that Sobremesa stands out to you. Because it isn't like, you know what I mean? It's not on any of the extremes.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, that's a pepper bomber. Oh,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you're in a scenario where you're smoking, I mean, how many cigars you light at the trade show, Aaron?
You probably do
20 a day, 25 a day?
I smoke a lot lighter than most guys.
Oh, really?
I'm probably maybe 8 at the show, each day at the show. And then towards the end of the show, I'm down to maybe 1 or 2 because it's just my tongue is just shot, and it's so dry, my lips are chapped, and it's not a fun time. So.
Yeah, part of it too is I think you want to actually smoke the cigars so that you can eventually write a review on them.
Yeah, that's the way we used to do it when we got samples and things like that.
They're going from one booth to the next. You know, the manufacturer wants them to clip and light it right now.
Yep.
Most of them do. I don't care, but most of them do. I'd actually rather them take the samples back and smoke them instead of, they've been to 22 booths today, so this is going to be the 22 thing they've started to throw in.
Right.
Because they got to go to their 23rd booth. So I'm okay with people not smoking the spot, but I know a lot of manufacturers, they want you to smoke the sample there at the show in front of them, and they want you to you want them to tell you what they think.
Right.
But honestly,
you're not gonna get an honest opinion most of the
time. You never get
anyway.
an honest answer with anything, right? So what good is it having someone, like I can tell you right now, Went through an entire trade show last year. Nobody mentioned to me that they thought Brulee was a sweet tip cigar.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody had samples. I gave away over 1,000 Brulees last year
Yeah.
at the trade show.
Yep.
Not one single person came back to me and go, "Did I taste some sweetness on that cigar?" It was 2 months later
Right.
that comment started,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I mean, so people don't tell you what they think
Yeah.
in a trade show. They never do.
Yeah.
So
And I think for smoking the cigars at the trade show, it's probably a bigger deal for newer brands because you need to get somebody's attention or show them what you're doing. But for the established brands, like you said, people, retailers are going to bring in certain brands regardless because they know that those brands sell in their shops. So it's probably not as big a deal for that. But for a newer brand, and that's what I respected about the 2015 show, is that you're not giving out samples. You're really just sitting down with people, talking to them about the cigar, what it's going to be like, and things like that. So I think it built the anticipation rather than turn people off to it. So I don't think that there was any kind of negative connotation to not getting samples for that cigar.
it didn't work against me.
Yeah.
But I mean, also, look, I wasn't even part of the trade show. I mean, my booth at that trade show was on the very outer edge of the universe.
It's really just two couches, right? And a table. That's what it was.
Yeah, there was a couple couches and a table. I
Yeah.
mean, it wasn't much. I mean, we didn't have much. I mean, we had one brand that we didn't even have.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really anything to actively sell.
Right.
And but we'll. But I am pleased to see that here it is 5 years later, and for the brand to still be growing.
Yeah.
Because that's really unusual in our market these days.
Right.
Most things come and they go so quickly.
Yep.
I mean, they might still exist, but they don't really sell. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You don't get retailers buying every day.
Yeah.
I don't want to name a brand because I don't want to be disparaging, but the reality is 85% of the brands launched at a trade show seldom are really actively selling 3 years later.
Yeah, I would understand that.
It's just the way the function works. So somebody out there likes Sobremesa, and for that, I'm thankful.
Yep.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few number of people in the contest picked some Sobremesas for the pack, so it's
I was
definitely
actually surprised by that because I had no input to that.
right.
But I guess like 4 out of 5 of you.
5 out of 6 picked one from your brand. I think it was 4. I think 4
Right, 5 out of the 6, 4 picked Sobremesa,
Right, yep.
1 picked, I think, a Mi Querida, I think.
Sin Compromiso, I think.
Sin Compromiso,
yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
And then Coop totally, just...
Apparently, he had some weird criteria where you had to be in the business for like 25 years and your own factory and all this.
Like that huge thing, like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So there was one other odd thing I want to make sure we squeeze in. So I had no idea what you guys were selecting.
Sure.
So it came as a surprise to me, with the exception of one person.
Okay.
One blogger actually contacted me and said, "Hey, I'm selecting your cigar."
Right.
I said, "Oh, well, that's cool." He's like, "Hey, you think maybe you could give me some swag or something to help promote it?"
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" Right? And I had no idea that the rest of you were also going to pick my cigar, and and you guys weren't as shameless as that guy,
right?
Who will go unmentioned, Kevin Shatman, right? That shameless Kevin, who solicited me. So when we were talking about doing this tonight, I said, "Hey, would you mind if we did some sort of little giveaway for the people that bought your sampler?"
Right.
That also has one of my cigars in it, and you graciously agreed. So what we're doing is, at the end of the Battle of the Bands, regardless of whether Aaron's group wins or doesn't win, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. He's going to get a list of who bought, and somehow randomly, this is up to him to select it, so I have nothing to do with it. But that person is going to get a unicorn. They're going to get a horn of a dead unicorn, which have never been released or sold. Nice. And they're also going to get a chubby unicorn. So they're going to get a trifecta of unicornness, one lucky winner out of the people that have bought your sampler or who may still buy your sampler.
That's right.
They're all eligible.
Thank you for offering that, Steve. I appreciate that.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. Like I said, you just weren't shameless like the other dude.
Yeah, so we're talking about this sampler pack over at Smoke Inn. The way you can purchase this, go to smokeinn.com/battle. You'll see all the samplers there. You can choose the Developing Palate one, hopefully. And here's a tip, save you a little bit of cash. This weekend, Saturday through Monday, Abe at Smoke Inn is doing a Labor Day sale, 20% off. The sample packs for the Battle of Bands are included in that. So if you want to hold off until Saturday or sometime over the weekend, you can get them at a discount. So a little bit of money savings there. So you can buy two. It works out that way. So gives you an opportunity to save a little bit of cash. So
What else is in the sampler? What are the other cigars these guys are going to get?
So the other cigars in the sampler are, along
I
with
know
the
this isn't something most
Sobremesa.
manufacturers would ask about, but I'm
No,
curious.
it shows the company that you're in for the choices. So last week I did the same kind of a call with Riste. We have the Tyrannical Buck Maduro Magnum 48, a little flavor bomb there. The Illusione Singulare Phantom.
I like that cigar a lot.
Yeah. The Hoya de Nicaragua Antonio Connecticut Toro.
Not as good as a Brulee. I just want to point that
right.
out.
And
my partner, it's a good cigar.
The Protocol Themis Toro, another Connecticut.
Wow.
So
two Connecticut's in the mix there.
Yes, I'm a pretty big Connecticut fan. I like a huge mix of stuff, but Connecticut's are included. And
really?
Yeah, and I wouldn't call the two that are in this pack traditional Connecticut's. They have a little bit more strength to them.
Got a little bit more oomph to it.
Yep.
And so does the Singulare. Yeah, I agree.
So everything here is picked for flavor. That's it. Over at Developing Palates, it's flavor first. So
there's no real uber strong bomb there. I mean, I guess the Tyrannical Buck.
It's got a little bit of
that would be the one that has the most pop, right?
Yeah, I would think so. But it's it's a good size. It's not a long cigar, so you're not going to be in a Toro situation where you're smoking it for 3 hours. So you probably got an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes of that Tyrannical Buck. So yeah, I mean. Strength is fine, but you have to balance that strength with the flavor. If it's just strength only, it just kind of doesn't keep my attention, for the sake of the strength.
I think what ends up happening is I think a lot of new consumers, they obviously smoke mild through medium, they get up to full, and then they tend to get in their nicotine junkie phase, where for, like 5, 7 years, 10 years sometimes, they just smoke strong.
Yeah.
But then typically, they start to dial it back a little bit. They start to get tired of just smoking just all of that. Oof,
Yep.
And look, I'm that way. I mean, look, I make some blends that are strong, but I don't make anything that I would consider biting.
No.
You know what I mean? I don't make what I would classify as a pepper bomb anywhere in the mix.
I would agree.
I'm not saying that I won't in the future, because there's definitely a market for it.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I mean, most of the cigars I smoke, I tend to like them to be a little bit more approachable, even if they're strong.
Sure.
And I think you can make a full-bodied cigar without making an ultra-strong cigar. Yeah. I think you can separate out the strength from the body of the flavor.
Yep, 100%.
And I think there's more consumers that like that. The thing that you have is you always have this. Particularly like in the circles that you and I operate in social media, there's always a preference towards strong and dark cigars.
Sure.
Because, I mean, look, half the cigars smoked in America are shade cigars that are mild.
Yeah.
That's 50% of the market. Yep. It just is. And it's been that way forever. But yet 50% of the pictures we see on Instagram and Facebook, they're not mild shade cigars, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're lucky if it's like 1 out of every, 100 photos.
Yeah.
Is that style of cigar. So we're kind of in like a little bit of a weird bubble. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Where there's a lot of consumers out there that really what they want is they just want it to smooth.
Yes.
They want it to be smooth.
Right.
Yep. But a lot of cigars that get a lot of online accolades don't fit in the smooth category at all.
Yeah. And that's a shame, because there's some really great flavorful cigars out there with lots of nuance. But if you're stuck in that heavy and peppery kind of mode, I think you kind of lose that.
Well, I actually don't even know how you appreciate the heavy peppery if that's all you ever do.
Yeah, if you're just kind of stuck in that thing, in that mode, and especially if you're smoking multiple cigars in a day and things like that, where you just have to get heavier just to be able to make it through to the next one.
Yeah, I know I couldn't live on a steady diet of that personally.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I mean, there's consumers that will, but the bulk of consumers do not.
Yeah.
The bulk, and the other thing too is there's a lot of closet, like you said, you smoke quite a few Connecticut shade
Yep.
cigars, and you're obviously not in the closet about it because you just
Right.
said the video. But there are a lot of people out there. They have a lot of cigars they like that they won't talk about in social media
Hmm.
because they know that they're going to get trounced on as soon as they say something favorable about X, Y, or Z,
Yeah.
because it isn't in the conventional wisdom,
Right.
and that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of surprised at how much love Brulee is getting.
Hmm.
I didn't really think it would because of that factor.
Right.
Because it's Brulee, it's not exactly the most manly cigar to smoke, right?
I mean, only if it's based on color, I guess, and the strength
Yes, I
level. I
don't know.
mean,
Look, I smoke one a day at least, so I
yeah.
like it. But
Yeah.
it's interesting. But yeah, El Americano, good
Yeah.
choice. In fact, I think I wrote. In fact, I remember I was actually looking at my notes. So this is what I wrote back in 2016. Toro, best balance of strength versus complexity in the Liga. Of the 50 plus ring gauge ones, it's definitely the best. That's what I wrote. Those are my personal notes.
Right.
So
Yeah, because you had after my comments, you had heard about that, and then you went on Cigar Chat on Cigar Federation, and I joined in on that. You had sent samples out for that, and I think we were maybe some of the first media that had a chance to smoke that, and that was the El Americano size. And I was blown away by that cigar when we smoked it on the show.
so
It
that
was just
cigar
so
that's in
flavorful.
your backdrop right now.
Yes,
Did you Photoshop that cigar? Or
I
is
did
that
not.
actually the one out of your pack?
That's the one out of my pack. Does it look a little dark?
Dude, it looks fucking amazing, is what it looks like. Look at that.
Well, it's the one right here. So let's see. Let's just
I mean, I don't
double
know.
check.
You can't see your background, right?
Oh, I
So
can see it. I
everybody
can see it.
watching this can see the background. Can you see the background?
I gotta see if I can, like, it's not
It
gonna look
doesn't
as
look
good on
nearly
the.
as good on the camera as it
Yeah,
does in that background.
that's
Right?
that's the cigar. There's no Photoshop. That's a straight raw photo. So yeah,
It looks like a chocolate bar in that
yeah,
photo.
it
Man.
does. Yep. But that's the cigar you'll get in this pack. So that's what they look like. So
I'm impressed, man.
yeah, looks nice. So talk a little bit more about Sobremesa. Brulee Blue is now released, and then the STFU sampler pack has just
It's
gotten
like,
out.
yeah, I'm living in Brulee world right now. It's crazy. Yeah, it's Brulee 24/7. It feels like.
So
Um,
is the blue similar to how the secondary release of Sobremesa was, where it was just
yeah,
kind of that
it's
tweaked?
one of these things where when I was making the Brulee blend, as the company gets older, I'd like to think I'm getting a little smarter.
Hmm.
I'm getting. You have to understand, I was never really ever on the sales end of things. So there's a lot of things that I'm kind of learning as I go along.
Right.
And one of the things I've noticed is I notice I have to be very careful about what sizes I make
Hmm.
because there are a lot of sizes that I love that just aren't good for retailers.
Sure.
Like in the regular Soberman, so one of my favorites is the Cervantes Fino,
Hmm.
6 1/4 by 46. It sells,
Hmm.
but it doesn't sell anywhere near as well as the El Americano that you have in your pack.
Right.
It doesn't sell anywhere near as well as Robusto Largo. It doesn't sell anywhere near as well as the Elegante and Cedros.
Yeah.
Okay, so I started, if you notice, like with Tricky Traca
Hmm.
and with Brulee, I started taking out a lot of the sizes. I don't want retailers out of the gate to make a choice that I know isn't going to do as well for them.
Sure.
But my favorite size in the Brulee blend, or in the original blend, was the 6 1/4 by 46 in Cervantes Fino.
Hmm.
That was the one that I liked the most. And so I wanted to make that size in Brulee. And as I was doing it, I'm like, yeah, but if I sell this, I'm probably going to be hurting myself. And I'm probably going to be hurting the retailer that makes the decision to put it on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I know that, if he chose these sizes, if he took a double Corona in mild, he's going to sell
Mhm.
way more mild double Coronas the
Right.
guys that are looking to play golf or smoke a cigar and poker night than he's ever going to sell a Lonsdale.
Right.
So once I decided to back burner the size, I then started tweaking it. And I just made it a touch stronger. Not a lot
Okay.
stronger. just a touch stronger. And then, and the other thing I wanted to do with Brulee is I wanted to do that Frenchy Tiffany blue band on it.
Right.
Right from the beginning, I wanted to do
Okay.
that. Instead of the band that you see on the regular
Yeah.
Sobremesa. But I couldn't do it because this kind of, the blue is from the Sobremesa Vista,
Mm-hmm.
but it's basically Tiffany blue. Let's
Sure.
just, it's very close to Tiffany
Yeah.
blue. It's not an exact match, but it's there. None of these Frenchy blue bands have ever worked.
Yeah.
Every brand that's ever been released with this blue on it has
Mm-hmm.
been ultimately a failure.
Right.
They'll sell for a year or 2 years or 3 years, but there's never been a brand that's ever done well long term with that color on it.
Right.
It's hard to ignore 100 years of consumer feedback. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In 100 years, not one single one of these brands has ever caught on.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Right.
Is it psychological? Does the guy look at his cigar and go, I don't want to smoke that baby blue thing?
Yeah.
Or, I don't know what it is, but it's just a fact.
Yeah.
It's the same way as like a green band on a Connecticut shade cigar is a disaster. It never
Right.
works.
Yeah.
Dark green works on dark cigars, but it doesn't work on a shade cigar.
Yeah.
So I didn't pull the trigger on the blue band.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't pull the trigger on the size I wanted. I didn't pull the trigger on the band I wanted.
Yeah.
Because I knew that these were going to be commercial hurdles.
Right.
But I still wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, okay, well, I'll just do it as a single one-off release,
Right.
limited edition. I'll use the stronger blends so the consumer that's buying it is getting something a bit different.
Right.
I'll use my Frenchy blue band because I'm not looking at it as building a brand.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It'll sell fine with the Frenchy blue band on it, and it'll stand out. And what ended up happening was the Frenchy blue band took so long. Okay, that because of the COVID situation, that the cigars ended up basically getting close to a year in age.
Right.
In the cool rooms, and it's kind of like, well, heck, let's just hold them another 8 weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're almost at a year.
Yep.
Why not let it age a full year and make it so? And that's kind of how Brulee Blue came into being. But I didn't make enough of them.
Okay.
But I thought I made a lot of them. I made 1,000 boxes worth. And look, we're talking about a Lonsdale, a Frenchy Blue Blend in Connecticut shade that costs $15.
Yeah.
I think 1,000 boxes is a big enough gamble.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It really truly is. There are people that make, 250 boxes of stuff that doesn't sell.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it felt like, but I was kind of like, it was 1,000 boxes. I'm like, okay, so if I sell half down, some accounts are going to like it. And, it's not like I'm going to lose my money on it.
Right. Right.
But when I saw how successful Brulee was doing, because Brulee, for the moment we launched it last trade show, it's been just on fire. I then started making more blue last September because I could already see that, oh, wow, 1,000 isn't going to be enough. Yeah. But even then, we just started making about, I have to go back and really look at the numbers, but it's somewhere between 200 and 300 boxes a month worth of cigars.
Yeah.
So it's really going to kind of depend on, because we haven't even offered blue to most of our accounts yet.
Mm-hmm.
We did the timeshare experience, and those guys that were in the timeshare, they bought them all.
Yeah.
So we were sold out from just those accounts. So there's a lot of great accounts out there that we have yet to get blue to. Okay. Now, whether they'll want them, 2-3 months from now. Well, I guess we're already in September, aren't we?
Right.
So I'm going to have more blue probably in October.
Okay.
I don't know. I never know. And I don't know anything right now because the market is so weird.
Mm-hmm.
This has been the craziest year ever.
Yeah.
I think it's a year where some people are having incredibly good years, and it's a year where other people are having incredibly bad years. And there's almost no rhyme or reason to some of it.
Right.
As to why it is. And we just finished August. We had our best month ever last month.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really, look, you welcome it. You're thankful for it.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you're kind of like, why?
Yeah.
Economy's for shit. People don't have jobs.
Right.
Presidential election that's going to result in who knows what.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's going to be, it's going to be crazy leading up to this. You got a stock market that, crazy highs, then, pretty much collapses. And now we're
Yeah.
back to crazy highs. But what? I didn't look today, but I heard something about losing, 400, 600 points in one
Yeah,
day.
I didn't see it today, but
Yeah,
uh,
I mean, it's like, it's so all over the place. It's like we went, and at the same time, I see a ton of small businesses closing.
mhm,
I see the for lease signs on the windows now.
yep,
And yet I see other businesses, they're, posting signs out front, $10,000 signing bonus for employees.
right,
You know what I mean? So it's
yep,
so weird. You
yeah.
got all this going on simultaneously. And I just don't have a feel for it at all.
Yeah, it's hard to tell like if it's certain industries that take a hit or if it's just based on the way people have modified their businesses to kind of take advantage of the situation in regards to like how to
But
offer new things to be able to keep business flowing.
I will say one thing. I have noticed a big difference. This is one area where I think we as a company were really lucky.
Hmm.
So as a general rule of thumb, because of the size of our company and the type of price we make, we're not in most stores.
Right.
We're a long way from being in most stores.
Hmm.
And the stores that we tend to be in are probably some of the most proactive
Yep.
style stores, the ones that are really engaged with their customers. It's very little, it's on the shelf and there's a clerk and he has no clue about it and you just bring it
Right.
to the counter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because my cigars wouldn't do well in that store. My
Sure.
cigars need to be talked about and introduced and
Yep.
explained. It's not Oliva, it's not Romeo and Juliet, it's not Padron.
Right.
These are not. It's not a household name. So for us, I think because of the accounts that we're in, and those accounts being a little bit more proactive in how they engage with their customers, we've done really, really well
Right.
because they've done really, really well. Whereas there's a lot of brick and mortar retailers in the country that have done really, really bad.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But their model is different. They have a humidor. It's full of a lot of goods that are available through distributors.
Hmm.
They don't really focus on anything that's special and unique. Not that they don't focus on good cigars. There's plenty of good cigars in those
Right.
brands. But it's different.
Sure.
You know what I mean? They
Yep.
kind of have more of a cash and carry kind of customer.
Right.
And so for us, we weren't in those stores to begin with.
Yeah.
So those stores not doing well didn't actually impact us.
Right.
So it's kind of a weird thing. But then the other side of that, you look at, you go, huh? In a market, this is the part that concerns me the most is, we're in a market where prices are crashing.
Yeah.
Prices have been just screaming to the bottom since spring.
Hmm.
There's cigars that were $12 on the retail shelf just 2 years ago that are literally $3 now.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are CA top number ones recently that are 50% off.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that makes a guy like me nervous too, because I can't do that. I'm a small company. I don't have the muscle or the scale to make that possible. So my cigars are already at a slightly higher price point. I don't think egregiously so, but ultimately I don't get to make that decision. The consumer gets to make that decision whether they think they're egregiously so. And and now it's one thing when you were taking my $12 X and you were comparing it to a typical $3 bundle cigar, then it was like, okay, I'm not smoking that. But now what about when you're comparing it to a former number one? You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a $4.50 cigar.
Right.
Obviously I'm biased, so I think my cigar is better.
Sure.
But I can understand a consumer smoking that cigar and going, that's a damn good cigar.
Right.
I like it better than whatever Saka makes that costs, now.
Yeah.
What used to cost $1.50 more, $2 more.
Right.
Now, because of the way the prices have gone,
$8 more.
it's $8 more.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. And I wonder, how you worry about that. You think, is this, even though it isn't hurting my price point, are my consumers going to shift down because the deals are so good? Now, how long are these deals going to last?
Right.
Is this the new normal? Because if there's a new normal, I can say right now, if this is the new normal, even though these companies enjoy a tremendous advantage in cost structure and scale, they cannot afford to make cigars that are selling at the current price in the marketplace.
Right.
The only reason why they're there is because COVID got so bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was a combination. It was last year, the market slowing for them.
Yeah.
So they already had an overstock. and then we go into winter, and winter sucks for everybody.
Yeah.
And then when things are supposed to get good, which is typically in March sometime when the weather starts to turn, because even if you live in Atlanta, if it's 55 degrees outside, it's too cold to be outside to smoke a cigar. You know what I mean?
Yep.
South Florida, Phoenix, Southern California.
Yep.
There's a few places in the country where the winter season is the good season.
Yeah.
Okay, but for the vast majority of the country, sales really slow in the winter.
Yeah.
And so March is kind of where you start to see, spring starts to come to the south.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it starts to come to the mid-Atlantic and then so on. And that's when you start to see sales pick up.
Yeah.
But this year, that didn't happen because of COVID.
Right.
COVID just hit everybody like a frying pan to the face.
Yep.
And everybody except the big online guys, they got a hurt put on them in March.
Yeah.
And in April. And even the big online guys, they didn't know which way it was going to go. But within 3 weeks, they saw the trend. Look, the big online guys, they had if you own STG stock, good for you, man.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because the Cigar International numbers, they're going to be damn fine.
Oh, yeah.
In 2020. But the thing was, they were willing to buy, but they wanted it at a super deep discount.
Yep.
And, look, if you're a company and you didn't have the best 2019 and then you're just coming out of winter and you're counting on March to pick you up, and now you've got cigars in stock because it's supposed to pick up, but nobody's buying, you kind of got a problem.
That's right.
So a lot of companies, they moved a lot of product to a lot of the big online vendors at a very deeply discounted price. And that's the reason why you see the prices the way they are. It's not because cigars aren't selling. Well, they weren't for a while there, but right now they're selling like crazy. But I do wonder, will these, but I know they have to come back because these prices are too cheap.
Yeah.
They just are. I mean, look, if you're a consumer out there and you see your favorite brand at this crazy price, buy the damn thing.
Yeah.
Because chances are you're not going to see those prices again because we're at a level that I just don't think is sustainable.
Yep. I would agree with you on that.
But you know what? I've been wrong about a lot of things before, so maybe I'm wrong on this one too.
Time will tell, I guess.
Time will tell. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
The other thing too is I don't know if you've noticed this year, and I know this is supposed to be a 15-minute discussion. If I'm boring you, Aaron.
No, you're good. Keep going.
Okay. I've also noticed that there's really been very little buzz about what has been launched this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I don't know, is that because companies look? I wasn't planning on doing much this year. I have a lot of limiteds this year.
Sure.
But I was adding a couple sizes to Tricky Truck. I was adding a couple sizes to Brulee. So I wasn't going to have the big, I'm going to release this brand this year anyways. But let's say I was, maybe I would have decided not to do it.
Right.
Because it is such a weird environment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe I would have said, you know what? What's the point of, because look, we got the double Coronas in March and we very softly sold them.
Right.
We made mention that they were available. Maybe like 50 accounts on their own accord bought them.
Sure.
But we didn't start actively talking about them until we got to July when we saw, okay, we have retailers that are doing well and it's okay because it just feels very, what's the word? It feels very tone deaf.
Yeah.
To try to convince a retailer to bring in a new SKU when they don't know if their doors are going to be allowed to be open. They don't know what their customers are going to do. And so I wonder if that's the reason why there's less this year. I mean, how do you feel? You pay attention to new brand releases way more than I do.
Yeah, I mean,
number of new brand releases, or
I think there's still been a good number because I track everything that gets announced, and we try to review as much as we can of new releases. And I've smoked through already quite a few number of 2020 releases, and to me, it seems to be continuing the trend of last year, where there's a fair number of releases, but there's not a lot that stands out.
There is also a limit is how much can we really do? Don't you get to a point where we have so many creative people doing so many different things, and in the end, we are dealing with tobacco and water.
Right.
So it is really, really hard
Sure.
to make something that tastes really uniquely, measurably different, where you're like, whoa, what was that I just smoked?
Yeah.
That was incredible. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And as you get older and you smoke more cigars, you become even more jaded to that fact.
That's true.
You
That's
don't
true.
you don't you don't get that experience that you got when you were younger, and you're like, oh my god, this is incredible.
Yeah.
I love this. Who makes this? You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
I mean, it's so rare today that I smoke a cigar and I go, wow. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
Because you kind of get to a point where you're like, okay, been there, done that, smoked this, smoked that. So that's also part of the thing. But
Yeah. I think so
yeah.
far this year, there's only two cigars that have really stood out to me. So, um,
Are
I
you
mean,
willing
there's
to
just
say them out loud now or
yeah,
no?
I'll say them out loud. I have no problem. The JRE Aladino Cameroon,
Okay.
very good cigar, and the Rojas KSG, which is a Lancero, also a very nice cigar.
Waste of
Uh,
time, though.
yeah, waste of time I know on the selling, but for the
Yeah.
people that like to experience things, and it's a good cigar. So,
All right.
but
Well,
there's still a lot of stuff in 2020 to smoke. Haven't smoked the blue yet. I haven't smoked it yet, so we'll get to see what that one's like. Looking forward to that one as well.
real mild, real Epicurean.
Hey,
It's that kind
it's
of
up
style
my alley,
cigar.
man. I like that Connecticut shade, so it'll work
You
out.
know, yeah. I don't know why. It just seems like the buzz factor is down this year.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have a trade show in the middle of the year when you typically have a trade show, and then there's a bunch of buzz around that time.
Right.
Everybody's doing those kind of individual events with their retailers and things like that, and that's not necessarily a media or consumer facing type of thing. Sure, you get
No,
press releases, but it's not the same level as seeing interviews live with guys at the trade show over the span of 3 days, and you have it for 10 hours in a day. Like
I
that
agree.
that buzz is gone this
Right.
year.
Look, and
So,
you know how I do the trade show. I mean, I don't
yep,
really do any selling at all.
right,
I mean, most of my time is booked doing media appointments because for me, the greatest value of the trade show is, being able to talk to as many consumers as possible. And the fact of what you guys do for a living
hmm,
ends up affording me the opportunity over those 3.5 days to do that. And we don't have that this year. And that's a big difference. And it's not
yep,
just you, it's, there's no inner tobacco, there's no
no,
IPCPR,
yep,
there was no TAA.
yep,
And virtual is not a replacement for in person. It
nope,
just isn't.
right,
I mean, look, yeah, does it work in a pinch? Sure.
yeah,
But, it's not the same. Um, and yeah, it definitely makes a difference. And also, I don't know though. I mean, I know the average consumer, they're not interacting with their retailer either.
right,
So they're not getting the amount of introductions that they normally would be this time of year.
sure,
Because look, everyone walks to a cigar store. We all, what's new? What do you
yep,
have that's interesting?
yep,
And then, the guy that owns the store or the manager, they walk you around and they point out the new stuff. They point out what they think is interesting. I always ask, what are your favorite cigars in the humidor?
hmm,
What are your least favorite cigars in the humidor?
right,
What's selling really well that you didn't think would sell? What's not selling that you thought would sell?
yeah,
You know, so I'm always asking those questions. So I think because I know that for a lot of retailers that did curbside, it really hurt their boutique style sales because the
sure,
customer didn't know what to ask for.
yep,
So the customer would just come and go, yeah, I want a Monte Cristo white. Oh,
right,
I want an Oliva V. Not that there's anything wrong with the cigars I'm listing.
yeah,
What's right about them is they're a known commodity.
exactly,
So when you're doing curbside and you don't have the ability to go in a humidor and look around and go, what's that one with that gold crown on it? You know
right,
what I mean?
yeah,
You don't have that.
yep,
So the guy's gonna go, oh, do you have any Romeo and Juliet Churchills?
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're anything that draws attention to your cigar, your packaging and stuff like that, that's all lost when you can't actually walk into that humidor. So it's really just on memory of what they smoked before that they remember that they liked, names that they recognize right off the bat. They can't browse for something that catches their eye. They can't
The
ask
reason
the
why
what's
the
new
big
or.
tobacco companies is, they fight it, but in reality, they know that plain packaging works to their advantage
Exactly. Yep.
because then the consumer never gets introduced to anything other than what they know.
Right.
So, I mean, if you can freeze things in time, it's going to mean that CAO Flathead is going to be one of the best selling brands of all time, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's a great selling brand now. Good cigar, good value for the consumer.
Right.
But I mean, in our industry, we're one where brands go up and brands go down.
Yeah.
And you would basically almost freeze the model.
Yep.
You know, so for certain brands, it would be great. Other brands, I mean, you know, look for STG, Hoya de Monterey used to be one of their best selling brands.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of become a second tier brand for them now, and Punch has become the more prominent of those of that genre.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But you know, that's because that's the moment. But that wasn't the case 20 years ago. It was just the opposite.
Yeah.
Hoya de Monterey was the flagship, and Punch was kind of the ugly stepchild one,
Right.
comparatively.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Exactly.
But consumers' taste and preferences change, and
Yeah.
what they like and they don't like. And oh, look, we're talking about CAO, right? So
Yep.
what? CAO was uber hot for a while there.
Mm-hmm.
Company got sold, kind of fizzled into nothingness for a while there.
Yeah.
Kind of went into a weird place, and now they've managed with the Flathead
Mm-hmm.
to really revive it. And the success of Flathead leads to more people buying Brazils and
Yeah.
more people buying the other ones.
Yep.
Because
Exactly.
they've now had a positive experience with A. So you're like, oh, well, let me try these other CAOs.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, brands are a funny thing. They go
Yep.
through definite cycles.
Yep.
And that's the thing. You know, in a year like this, does it all just kind of get a little frozen?
Yeah, so with not having the trade show in the kind of the middle of the year, I'm interested to see how the end of the year works with like the cigar of the year list. Like, is that going to be any kind of a driver in regards to people kind of getting a chance to get a comparison of what was new that's people like, kind of a thing, since you kind of had that gap. So I'll be interested to
So,
see.
you know, talking about this. So in the past, I have sent out samples
Hmm.
in the fall. 2 years ago, I consciously decided to stop doing that
Hmm.
because I really actually wanted to see how much it affected where I got rated
Hmm.
in these end of the year lists. And for certain sites, it didn't have any impact at all.
Right.
It didn't have any impact on yours. It didn't have any impact on Coop. Didn't have any impact on Half Wheel. So whether I sent you samples or didn't send you samples, you still reviewed something of my major releases.
Right.
But for some of the smaller players,
Hmm.
it definitely made a difference.
Sure.
Okay. They, you know, somebody who before would, you know, if I sent them a sampler of 4, they would smoke all 4 and they would write 4 reviews. And then typically one of them would end up in their top 10 and
Right.
blah, blah, blah. So this year, without having the trade show, I'm just thinking, you know, okay, so you have a Sobremesa Blue, but there's
Yep.
probably a lot of bloggers that couldn't even get a Sobremesa Blue.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's probably a lot of reviewers that are probably not going to get to try a Tricky Traca 652.
Hmm.
So I think I'm going to change. I think this year I'm going to go back to sending samples because I would have given all those media people samples
At the trade show.
trade show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think I'm going to go back to it this year because I don't. I have a different view. I know some people think you guys are just mooches.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, you know me. I have my complaints about what you do.
Right. Right.
You hear them from me.
Yes.
But but I've never thought that people do it as a mooch thing. It's a lot of work to smoke a cigar and to actually write a good faith review.
Right.
I don't think that the average consumer really understands how much effort actually goes into writing all of those reviews.
Yeah, well, I mean, there some do because they see it and they want to do it and they try to do it for a little while and they're like, "Fuck this, is too much work. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just gonna
It's a
smoke
lot
my
of work.
cigars." So yeah, and then and then media gets a little bit of a bad rap. I mean, there have been people in the past at the trade show that had caused some problems, and then
Yeah, but
you get
look,
some
I'm an
brands that
adult. I can tell some guy to fuck off.
yeah, absolutely,
You know what I mean? I don't need for there to be rules to tell me that because there's 1 or 2 bad apples you can't give to anybody.
yeah,
You know, I hate that logic.
right,
It's like it's an anachronism to everything I believe in. No,
right,
what I need to do is tell those 1 or 2 doofuses
yeah,
to just fuck off, or just accept the fact that this is who they are, and give them a couple cigars and let them go on their merry way.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? Rather
yeah,
than make it into a big issue.
right,
I never really understood that. Because, like, look, So you do the Great Smoke, right?
Yeah.
I'm giving away 1,500 cigars at a Great Smoke.
Right.
Okay. So why am I going to worry that I gave some half-ass blogger,
Right.
a brulee and a tricky traca to smoke? You know what
Yep.
I mean? Like,
Yep.
really?
Yeah.
It's almost like I always found that just such an absurd argument. And then the whole thing about you guys sucking up time. Again, look, my approach is different because I set up real appointments with you
Right.
guys, right? But can't you just say, look, Aaron, I'm just too busy, man. It's a trade show. I'm
Absolutely.
here writing orders with customers.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you. You mind if we talk after the show?
Yeah.
Or, hey, can you, I just don't understand why we need rules to take away something that you can just personally exercise by saying,
Yep.
Aaron, I don't want to fucking talk to you, man.
Yep.
You're
Exactly.
a dick. You know what I mean? Every
Yeah.
time I talk to you, you make me look like a total ass. So I'm not talking to you anymore. I mean, how hard is that?
Exactly.
I don't get that whole thing.
Yeah.
But on the opposite side of the coin, I don't get William sometimes beating the drum so hard about it.
Yeah.
Like it's a big deal that the PCA has this rule that you can't ask for a sample.
Right.
Because you know as well as I know, Aaron, at this point, companies offer you the samples. They want you to see them. They want you to write, whether you review them or not.
Right.
They want you to say, well, Crown Heads is releasing XYZ and X this and that.
Yep.
And here's a photograph. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, I mean, what company doesn't want to give?
Right. Yeah.
And any guy that's going to spend $3,000 to go to a trade show so he can mooch a few cigars, this guy's an idiot, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I mean, by the time you pay for plane ticket, hotel, you're not doing it for less than $1,500, right?
No, not at all.
Not at all. So, look, $1,500 or $3,000, that's out of pocket.
Yep.
Okay, you can buy the cigars a hell of a lot cheaper and not go to the trade show.
Yeah.
And you can pay full retail and still be ahead of the game.
Absolutely.
So this concept that people were coming to the trade show just to mooch cigars, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't pass the logic test with me.
Yeah, they're just like some old like tropes that like people have about media and things like that just they can't get over. I don't know. So we'll see.
But you guys still suck. So let's not let
absolutely.
Let's let the viewing audience think that I'm on your side here. I still think you guys suck.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
We're always the stepchildren at the trade show. It works out that way. So. All right, Steve. Well, I appreciate your time tonight.
No, it's been my pleasure, man.
I appreciate your offering. So the Battle of the Bands, the Smoke In, Developing Palates Edition. If you purchase this pack, you are entered to win a unicorn horn, and a chubby unicorn.
That's correct. 3 cigars. But we know this is $100 retail value.
That's right. The other ones are $200 or $300 a piece, right?
Let's just say these are $100 each.
There you go.
This is $300.
$300. All you have to do is buy this pack, and you get a 20% discount if you wait till this weekend and get the Labor Day sale at Smoke In. So, smokein.com/battle. The Sobremesa El Americano is in that pack. 5 fantastic, flavorful cigars. That's why the El Americano was chosen for that pack. Steve, again, thank you very much for joining me today.
Pleasure's all mine. Thanks, Aaron.
I love your cigars. That El Americano is special. For multiple reasons to me, thank you for offering that prize to all the buyers, and thank you for spending your time tonight with me talking about the pack.
All right, and I'll share once this goes whatever. I'll share the link and I'll write about the prize with it too.
Fantastic, I appreciate that.
All right,
guys, thank you everybody for tuning in. Buy the pack, buy it often, get the discount this weekend, and pump up those numbers for Developing Palates. We're gonna try to win this thing. Have a good night.